So on the board, you'll see this is my sales cycle, right? And I broke it down into 7 different steps, and you've seen this before. The first step is bonding a rapport. How do we get somebody to like us, right? Because it's never easy. Within bonding a rapport, we talk about what your 30-second commercial is. How do you transition that into a meeting? How do you gain trust and competency to be able to work with a client? Once you have the bonding and rapport, the next part of the sales cycle becomes an upfront contract. An upfront contract sets the stage exactly as I spoke to before, as expectations of you, me, the client, and all of this is qualification. Everything, the first 5 sections of this is qualification, and your job is to get information. It's not necessarily to give it until there's a commitment to do business with you. What you want to do is eliminate free consultant and the different methods in the sales cycle. The upfront contract, after that is we got to go into pain. If there's no pain, there's no sale. We need to find pain. We need to find out what's keeping people up at night. And generally, it's not an easy thing to do, because there's a lot of questions that go around the pain conversation. Because if it's not top of mind with somebody, you have to create that top of mind with them to be able to implement and get them to look at it. The next part of what we talk about is the budget step, and then I'm going to go over my budget talk today. We'll complete the budget step today, but I just want to give an overview of everything through here. When you have a pain, part of the qualification process is we got to qualify them financially. It's no good having a pain or a need for something and not being able to afford it, right? We can't be all things for all people. I can't get, blood out of a stone, right? So we have to qualify them based on what it is that they have available to put into the plan. Not just the insurance, but the whole plan. See, the process that you have is a holistic planning process that talks about everything. The mistake that we're making is we're going out and we're seeing people with just life insurance ledgers, and we're doing a life insurance review, and that's it. Follow the process. The process is the leader with this. So how do we get a budget and a commitment, and not only a commitment to fund the plan today on dollars, but a future money commitment of money going into the plan as you go along? Who are the decision makers? Once you've gone through these steps, you've really completed the first 5 sections of the sales process, which are all qualification. When you're done with qualification, you're looking now to get a commitment, not to go through the process, but a commitment to do the plan, right? Because if you qualified somebody properly, before you present anything to them, if you've done the right qualification, your next step is, if I can fit it into what it is that you're looking to do based on the budget that you've done, and fix this pain here, this pain here, this pain here, what do we do? Ultimately, I'm going to tell you yes or no. So I don't do the consulting part of it and put in the fulfillment part until we have a commitment to going through what it is that we do, and then how do we post that. So we're right here today. The last session I did, we talked about this. We did the respect talk. I'll go over that again just briefly. But ultimately, what I want to get out of today is I want to spend our time going over money commitment and a budget talk to be able to have a conversation about money. And the reason I want to do that is because we, from a young age, are taught that it's rude and wrong to talk about what?
Money.
Why?
Personal.
Private.
It
Sets precedence.
does. You know, as kids, like my son asked me, how much money did you make? Or how much do you think my dad's friend makes? Yeah, my friend's dad makes. I'm like, don't ask that. Why? So it becomes a hard conversation to have with people, simply because our whole lives we've been taught that it's rude, it's wrong, and we shouldn't be talking about money. Well, guess what? We're financial advisors. Guess what we talk about? Money. We got to talk about money. Yeah. Right? So I wanted to get to that. So I open it up, I'll just give you a review. When I get to the bonding report, we go through the process. I follow the capabilities brochure. I go through the capabilities brochure. I go through my NOT talk. I say, naturally, you're going to want to know a little bit about me, the firm, and the process I take my clients through. This is the brochure. We're the Greater Financial New Jersey Group. Here's how we work with our clients. We've been around for over 30 years as an agency, 140 years as a company. Most people know us as a life insurance company. What they don't realize is we actually play pretty well in the investment game as well. And I'll go through this. Don't know if you realize this, because I know you know us as an insurance company because you have the policy, but we're actually in the top 10 of all global asset managements in the world. I'll talk them through this. I'll go through the part where we have the corporate plans too, because I want them to know that we do a lot of corporate and business benefits. This is the process. Once I go through that, then I'm at obviously, and I was clicking away and I didn't even realize it. Then I'll go to obviously, if you're open to it. Now I've done my intro, and I'll probably spend 5 minutes. I don't really talk about myself doing it, just the process. Because if I'm doing an opening meeting, honestly, they don't give a crap. They don't care. I have a story, but in the bonding and rapport, maybe I've got my story out or whatever it is. They want to know what it is I can do for who?
Them.
Not me.
No.
So obviously, if you're open to it, I'd like to spend the majority of our meeting getting to know a little bit about you. And this is where I go into the respect talk. If you're like most people, what part of the process and capabilities am I in now? Say it again.
Cornerstones.
I'm in the cornerstones. People skip this part, it drives me nuts.
Oh, that's the most important
This is
part.
the most important part that you can have, because
Right.
you're planting the idea. You're trying to create top of mind awareness. And there's a script for the cornerstones. We were on a leadership call on Friday where they were role-playing this brochure for the leadership team. So the company is on this. So all I do in the cornerstones is I do my respect talk. Why? I designed this to make it more transferable. Because if I can remember an acronym, it makes it transferable for you guys to remember what it is you got to ask. And if you look at the respect, what it stands for is different things as you go through. It's retirement, education, savings, protection, cash flow, and taxes. It's all in the four cornerstones.
Right.
So you tell a story. If you like most people we talk to and most of our clients have similar concerns. The first one is around retirement planning. Most of the people we're talking to are either in the accumulation or decumulation part. Where are you? Are you saving or are you pulling money out? You're gathering information, you're getting information as you go through, you tell a story. These are what we call future concerns. And what we do as a process, what I'd like to do is I question all this, and I'm skipping over this. I spent a lot of time in here because we did this last time to get to budget. What I'd like to know is where you are from a baseline perspective to be able to link those to your future concerns in all of these areas. Typically how these meetings end, based on how I answered your questions, I'm going to tell you how I answered your questions, I'm going to tell you you're going to tell me we're not a good fit. Based on how you answered my questions, I'm going to tell you got everything under control, there's nothing really I can do. Or thirdly, or just as importantly, based on how we answered each other's questions, there's value in the process and room for growth. Is that fair? This is my close to the commitment to the what? Process. Because I want it to make it okay, David, that it's okay for both of us to be able to say no.
Right.
Is that fair?
Yes.
Yes.
Absolutely.
So if you're like most people, you have group products.
Right.
By group, I mean stuff that's provided by your employer through your job. And typically, if you're like most people, you have some kind of 401k or retirement plan. What do you have? Right? We go through it. Yes, I have Fidelity. I contribute 10%. I get a 4% match. There's about $150,000 in there. It's a mutual fund, target date funds, and I get no support through work. So now I'm going through the questioning part of it. I'm asking the questions in the cornerstones. And in our call on Friday, all he did was ask the same questions in a different way. But this makes it easier to lay it out. And I like the visual. I'm a visual person. So if I'm writing this out in front of somebody, most people are looking at what it is that we go through. Do you have medical? Do you have life? Do you have DI? Do you have disability? Do you have long-term care? These are all group products. Do you have a pension? Then I tell a story about things changing. You know, it used to be a time where you could work 30, 35 years for a company, you get a pension, you get a gold watch, and you'll retire comfortably. You'll keep your medical benefits forever, and there's no problems with anything. Jeff would have liked the golf clubs, not the gold watch. That doesn't happen today. Pensions are less and less, and that has shifted the value and the purpose of people doing more and more for their own planning themselves. So when we're doing it for themselves, we have what we call individual benefits. If you're like most people, you probably have some individual life insurance, so on and so forth, like disability, long-term care. Do you have some brokerage account, investment accounts? This is where you're gathering the information to be able to take it through the process. Do you have 529 education saving plans? Do you have any IRAs or 401ks? Do you have any savings? Then the third component that makes up somebody's financial life is the legal side. And in the legal side, we talk about, do you have a will? Do you have trusts? Do you have powers of attorney? Asking the questions around what it is they've done on the legal side. this will be a 20-minute conversation, and you'll get a pretty good picture of somebody's overall baseline perspective, right? So then when we get this, we get the assets, then I go into more question, and then we get to the pain part, right? So then I'll turn it around and I'll say to them, you know, from where you sit, what's jumping off the page at you? Because all too common mistake is we look at something and go, oh, I see that old 401k, I want that. I can do something with that, right?
Right.
But I can only do something with that if that person's saying, I want to do something with that. So my question becomes, remember, your job is to get information, not give it. From where you sit, what's jumping off the page? Where do you want to start? They'll tell you, I have my life insurance. Now we're going through the pain funnel. Jeff, do you have the pain funnel? Now we're taking them through the pain funnel. So once they tell you something, it's not enough to just say, I want to look at my life insurance. We've got to really drive down to find out the real reasons that they want to do this. This is a Sandler Silent system. Rich went to see a Sandler coach. How much are they going to charge you to do this system? 11 grand. You get it for free. I got Venmo now too, so if you want to send something Venmo. My son told me about it. I had no idea what it was. I'm like, wow, that's pretty cool. So now we're taking them through the pain funnel. First thing we want to talk about is life insurance. The pain funnel typically is a question. Time, cause, cost, consequence. How long have you had this problem? What's causing you to think about it? How much do you think it's going to cost you if you don't do something about it? How much do you think it's going to cost you to fix it? What have you done to fix it? What are the consequences if you didn't do something to you and your family based on what it is that you're saying? These are questions that they will give you, and it will give you an emotional tie-in to fix the solution of everything as you go through. So anyway, I'm speeding up. Next thing, what else jumps out? So we go through, we get 2 or 3 things. My investment, my brokerage, I take them through the pain funnel on everything they tell me. Time, cause, cost, consequence. I'm asking questions. Remember, your job is to get information, not to give it. So once I have anything, the next part is we've got to get to a budget or a money commitment. So remember, at this part, we're at the 4th step of the sales process. And the reason I break it down like this into different steps is because you have steps in a process, you know where you are every step of the way, rather than just, where am I? You control where it is the next conversation is going to be if you have a process. If you don't, it's all mixing in, it's all going everywhere and all going through it as you go. So if I've got pain, and those 3 things are the pain things that we wanted to touch on, those are the 3 initial things, I'm going to now establish a budget of what we can invest into the plan to fix it. Guys with me?
Yes.
First thing I would ask is, based on these 3 things we want to fix, Carl, do you have a budget in mind that you want to spend on this? Easy question, right? Most people are going to say what?
Haven't thought about it.
Haven't thought about it. What else?
I don't know.
I don't know. What else?
I don't have the money.
I don't have the money. What else? I don't know how much it costs. I was hoping you could tell me how much it is. Right? It's all... I'm on camera, I better not. It's all rubbish. It's rubbish. They don't want to commit to something before they know what it is they're committing to. But think about it. Everybody in their mind knows what they can spend.
Yep.
Right, Lisa? Everybody. I go into Best Buy and I want to buy a TV. I'm not shopping based on what the TV can do. I'm going in there and I'm looking at what? Because that's my budget. Everybody has an idea in their mind what it is that they can spend. They just won't commit to it. Every now and again you'll get somebody. So the first question I'll ask is, based on what we talked about, David, do you have a budget in mind that jumps to mind that you want to spend and you want to commit towards the plan?
Right.
You may get it, you may not. You get a lot of the excuses. Yeah, Jim.
Yeah, when we talk about budget, we talk about the life insurance cost, the premium. When we talk about annuity, how does that budget relevant to?
Well, there's 2 things, right?
Yeah.
Because you've got assets that are already there, to
Yes.
Susan's point about existing assets,
Yes.
which is more of an annuity play than funding something as a constant ongoing thing. So when I talk about budget, I talk about it as a whole, not just a budget for the life insurance. And I'll show you how to do that as well.
Okay.
So I talk about budget, and I talk about most people. A lot of my language comes around most people, and for this case, I'll use a male and a female, husband, wife, with a 7-year-old son making about $100,000 of income. So when we talk about money, most people want to achieve financial independence. What do I mean by financial independence?
It means they could
Right.
live and they don't have to work if they don't.
Financial independence, yeah. And most people want to achieve financial independence between the ages of 55 and 65. We call that what? Retirement. But I'll tell you what financial independence really is. Financial independence, Jim, is the ability to choose. It's the ability to choose when I get to that stated age where I want to achieve financial independence, whether I work full-time, whether I work part-time, or whether I don't work at all. That's financial independence. It's not about how much money you have saved in the accumulation. It's about achieving independence so you have choice of what it is that you want to do. Now, the things that come into the play on that affect what it is. If I don't have enough money, maybe I've got to work part-time. Maybe I've got to keep working. I don't know. But most people want to achieve financial independence between the ages of 55 and 65, and what that means is the ability to choose. The ability to choose whether to work full-time, part-time, or not at all. To do that, the general rule of thumb is most people need to be saving between 15 to 20% of their gross income. If most people save 15 to 20% of their gross income, they will be able to achieve financial independence. That's the general rule of thumb. Typically what can happen is one of three things. I call them the 3 Ds. These are risks as we're saving money in the plan that could ultimately not let us achieve the financial independence. The first part is I could die prematurely. If I die prematurely, I don't have years and years to save. My family are not going to have my nest egg. They're not going to have the value that I've created over my lifetime. I could get sick or hurt and can't go to work, get into disability. If I'm not making income, my plan will never self-complete. I'll never get to the point where I need to be. And third and foremost is the third D, which happens more often than not, is discipline. And when I talk about discipline, it's the financial stresses that happen every single day. My power went out last night from the winds. The last time my power went out, I was out for 9 days.
Wow.
Remember that, Susan?
Oh, yes.
I was living in a hotel with 2 young kids. It cost me $3,000 for 9 days. That's a financial stress.
Yeah.
My boiler blew up last month. That's a financial stress. So when we talk about money and how much we want to do, we want to say any budget that's committed to is one that's comfortable, and no matter what financial stress comes on your situation, Rich, will not adhere or not take away from the discipline of saving into your plan. Is that fair? So now what am I doing? Getting commitment. I'm lowering boundaries, right?
Yeah.
You're going to tell me if it's safe, if it's good. I'm not asking for anything. Here's the ideal. Here's what we need to be. On a general rule of thumb, it's 15 to 20%. But I want you to be thinking about things that do it. Now, the first 2 Ds we can plan for, right? If somebody dies prematurely, we can fix that somebody's always going to get their nest egg when they get to retirement.
Right.
If somebody gets sick or hurt and can't go to work, we can fix that with the planning process that we take people through. So ideally, out of the 15 to 20% of gross income, 3 to 5% of that should be going to fund strategies to eliminate the first 2. The third one is the derailer for most people. It's the discipline to financially commit every single month, year, whatever it is, to put the money into the plan. I'll spend about 5 minutes talking about this. My clicker stopped. So let's do the numbers, and I'll back it in. You know, I write a lot in front of them when I do the form talk. I'll do it on a notepad. I'll do the budget talk with them as well. So the ideal for this situation, if I'm making $100,000, the ideal is 20% of my gross. Pretty easy math, right? Yeah. So I need to be saving $20,000 a year. We based on what we already said. The guy was saving 10% into their 401k plan. They were saving about $5,000 a year already into stuff that they're doing, because they're working with people already, right? Whether they are or not, they're still working with people. They're still doing something, whether it's a retirement plan or funding college, whatever it is. So they're saving $5,000 a year. So if we minus that out of the 20, that leaves us a shortfall of $15,000 a year. Or said another way, a $1,200 a month to be ideal in funding the 20% of your gross. My next question is what?
Where are you gonna get it?
Say it again.
How's that sound?
How's that sound?
Right.
Because that's the ideal, right? So I've taken the pressure off somebody having to think about what it is. I've told them the ideal. Now they've got to tell you whether it is that. Most people do not have an additional $1,200 a month
No.
that you talk to be able to put to a budget. So you want to make them feel okay, feeling not okay. That make sense?
Yeah, hard.
So now what we've got to do is we say, okay, that's okay, but we know it's not zero, right? Because if it was zero, we wouldn't be having that conversation.
Exactly.
So we know it's somewhere between 0,
1,200.
you got it. So where is it? Now this is bracketed. Now we've got to get them comfortable with the budget of what it is. Now I'm going to bracket down. If it's not 1,200, do you think it's closer to 1,000? They're going to say what?
Yes or no?
Yes, no, maybe, right?
Yeah.
If it's not 1,000, is it closer to 800? When you take it down and you bracket it down, you see in their minds, you'll see what it is that they're thinking. They're getting closer to what? Their number, because everybody has a what?
A number.
They have a budget, they're just not going to tell you. So let's say, yes, they said yes, I could do 800 a month. So if I were to do 800 a month, that's $9,600 a year, plus the 5,000 that I'm already doing, I've just found almost a $15,000 budget for a client. But there's a shortfall. Our shortfall is ideally we want to be at $1,200 a month, but doing something now is always better than doing nothing. And in fact, part of the process, as we go through this, as part of building out your plan, is every year we're going to make a future commitment to getting closer to the what? The 20% gross. Now, as their income changes, the plan changes. This is how you can provide a client experience, and that client will never leave you because you have this with all the technology that we have rolling out now. This is all in one part. It all loads into eMoney. It's amazing. Everything's right there. So we have a shortfall in commitment. So now I'll have a conversation about what else it is that we can do to save money. If you're like most people, you probably have some liability, home or auto insurance. Jeff's been piping on for how long now about getting the deck pages for the home and auto, right? Jeff, how easy is that now?
Easy.
What do? We get the deck pages, we send them up, they quote it.
Yep.
So my conversation becomes, if I can save you money on your home auto or your liability insurance, by the way, I've been licensed for P&C for 10 years. How many policies do you think I've sold in those 10 years?
Zero.
Zero. Don't want to know it? Part of my process thought. Because I can hand it off, and I can still get comped on it, but I can hand it off and have somebody do the analysis, and I can say as part of my budget, if I can save you money on this, can I take 100% of those savings and allocate them to this number? So maybe now I'm getting upwards of the 800, maybe now I'm getting closer to 900, 850, whatever the case is. If you're like most people, if you own a home, you probably have a mortgage rate.
Yes.
When was the last time you looked at your mortgage rate? Okay, so if we can take a look and help you maybe save some money on your mortgage rate, can we take those savings and allocate them to the plan? These are savings that we can do right now to increase the budget of what it is that we're going through. If you're like most people, and if you're working, you typically would get a raise each year. How much is your raise? Let's say they said 5%. So if I'm getting a raise, out of that raise, we know the IRS is going to take a third, right? A third of it can go to our lifestyle, what it is we want to increase. Is it okay if I take a third of that raise and put it into the future commitment, into your plan of getting this closer to where we need to be on an ideal basis? If you're like most people, you may get a tax refund.
Not this year.
Yeah, depending on who you talk to, right? If you're like most people, you might get a tax refund. Typically, what do? We know at this point the IRS is not taking a third because she's giving you your money back. Most people say they want to pay off their debt for Christmas. Can we take a third of it and do that? And can we take a third of it and allocate it to the plan? So these are your future commitments. So now think about what you've done. You've just set a precedent to be able to, every time you go back and do a review, not just review that current plan, but do what? Get more money, right? That for me? Get more money. So now it's not just reviewing the stuff, you have an ability to be able to put more money and get paid and paid and paid and paid. Imagine you have 100 clients you have a future money commitment to, and they're all committed another 500 or whatever, $100 a month to you in the plan. Makes it a little easier building your revenue, right? Because they're already committed to doing the process. So follow the process. This is what I talk about in the budget. Then I want to find out what their emergency fund and their liabilities are. Why? Because I want to find out if I can help them cut any debt down in their credit cards. I want to find out interest rates on autos or student loans. Ideally, I want to make sure this is funded first and foremost, make sure they have an emergency fund set up. It's the first part of putting the plan together. But this is a conversation I'll have about having a money commitment. It's not just a budget, it's a money commitment. By the way, if you really wanted to get into it, the capabilities through the planning software, whether it's eMoney or whether it's NaviPlan and Compass and Forecaster, you have a whole budgeting tab on there too. So you link it all up. And I'll tell you why I'm also excited about eMoney, because they can link their accounts to that eMoney. So they can link their bank accounts, their credit cards, their investments. So when I do a budgeting piece for somebody, guess what? It's all there and it's all categorized. So out of the details that they spend on their food off their debit card, I know they're spending X amount of dollars on food every single month, and I don't even have to ask them. It's already there from the bank. It's fed directly into it. It's an amazing client experience of what it is you can do. But this is the talk I have about a budget and a future money commitment, because I'm not going back to present any plan until I get somebody to make a commitment of what it is they can do to fix it. Any questions?
I just think this part is so critical, because what happens to a lot of people is they go back, they think they know what the person needs, they make this recommendation, they never went through the process, and then they wonder why it didn't happen. And they'll make up an excuse at the back end of why, which really, they have no idea why it didn't happen because they didn't go through the process.
Well, if you don't do this, what are you going to do? You're going to go out and take a plan and say, oh, here's a life insurance solution, it's $500 a month. They'll be like, what, are you crazy?
Yeah.
Or you're going to take a life insurance, oh, here's a $50 a month term, not knowing that they actually could spend $500 a month.
Yeah.
So if you don't have the conversation, you know, listen, there's no right away, but you've got to start talking about money and future commitments. The future money commitment, by the way, will change the way you do business. It will increase your revenue year over year over year over year if you have people committed to putting more money into the plan every single year. But you've got to follow the process to get there. So back to the first part in the Morningstar, once I've gone through this, I have a pretty good picture of their overall situation, right? This is an hour meeting. It's following the process. Right, so I've got an idea where they are from a baseline, where they want to be in the future. I've got a little fact find that I did do in the respect talk. I have an idea about the money they want to spend on it. I've pretty well got enough to go back to the drawing board and put some ideas together, right? Plus I have a commitment to the process. So I'll go back to the first three things and I'll reiterate everything that they said. You had pain. Number one issue was the life insurance. You wanted to do it this reason, this reason, this reason, this reason. We said we got $500 a month we want to put towards the overall budget with everything. Is that right? So you reiterated everything before I go back. And I'll say, okay, while I'm putting those three things together, the ideas, obviously you have all this other things going on with your 401k through work, your brokerage accounts, your wills. Would you compile that and send it over to me? In fact, in eMoney, they can upload their stuff into the vault, so you don't even have to get it anymore. It's like, here's your access, here, load it up, I'll take a look at it, it's phenomenal. You know, and would you get me the rest of your statements? Because what I don't want to have happen is, we design the plan around what it is that you want to focus on. What I don't want to have happen is that affect the other stuff that you have going on, or vice versa. So as I'm concentrating on working on these things and prioritizing these three things of where you want to be right now, I'm also gonna take a look at a macroeconomic approach to make sure everything's moving together. Because you hone in on one or two things, that's a microeconomic approach. If you go macro, you're looking at everything. So if we do something micro, we need to make sure it doesn't affect the whole macroeconomic approach as we go through it. Would you compile your statements and put them together for me? And I did that with the guy that I just showed you the Morningstar report. Over the weekend, we met with him on a Friday. By Saturday morning, I had the statements. Not only did I have the statements, he actually filled out the fact find for me. Right, Don? I said, fill out the fact. I had a baby crying in Starbucks. What am I going to do? You know, I couldn't ask him to fill it out. But he committed. The thing that we were able to get him to do is to commit to the process.